we're making this small film because we want to tell as many people as we can about something very, very important that's happening in our country. We call it the North American Union. The corporations and the government who are making it happen give it another name. They call it the Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America. What it is basically is a merging of Canada, the United States, and Mexico into one corporate-run entity. Nobody seems to know exactly what it is, but whatever it is very, very big and very, very important. It's moving ahead very quickly. It has the support of the top politicians in Canada. The Security and Prosperity Partnership Agreement was signed by Paul Martin, George Bush, and Vicente Fox in 2005. It was done in complete secrecy. Most Canadians have never heard about it. Right now it's July 2007 as we're making this film. Next month, August 2007, President George Bush, when you say president, it kind of gives a picture of a statesman. Should we say the terrorist, falsely elected George Bush, is coming to Canada to meet with Stephen Harper and the Prime Minister or the President of Mexico, Mr. Calderon. The three of them will be meeting in Montebello, Quebec. Today we heard that the Council of Canadians is trying to set up a public forum, a teach-in, 6 kilometers away from Montebello in some small town. The Council of Canadians put out a press release today saying that they were not going to be allowed to do this by the RCMP, the Quebec Provincial Police, and the U.S. Army. Obviously, the politicians at the highest level say that 6 kilometers away the public cannot go, while our Prime Minister meets with George Bush and Mr. Calderon, and all of them together meet with the top corporate executives of North America, of the largest corporations in the world, to plan our futures out for us. That's what's happening. The North American Union is the next step in what you can call the corporate globalization of the world. Now, some people say, well, we should be closer together, and and maybe we should. The problem is the public is being kept in the dark. The decisions are being made by people we can't trust, namely our top politicians and corporate executives. We know we cannot trust them. Or maybe you do, but if you do, I would suggest you may be wrong. It's a very big problem because what they're going to do is essentially, the corporations already have power. What they intend to do is essentially rewrite the laws of all 3 countries to bring them more into agreement with what the corporations want. There was one small example of that in May, I believe, of this year, 2007. Canada's pesticide regulations were changed to allow more pesticides into our food. This was done in order to harmonize, as they like to call it, our pesticide regulations with those of the United States. This was done, it was in the news one day, and it's never been mentioned since that I've seen. And yet, our entire food supply has now been changed, irrevocably and unalterably, without any question ever being asked to the people of Canada whether we want this. This is what the North American Union is all about. They're talking about a merging of the militaries, some kind of merging of the police as well. They're talking about a common border around Canada, the United States, and Mexico, and basically getting rid of the borders in between. They're also talking about a common currency. It's called the Amero. And if you go on YouTube and under search, just put in Amero, you'll start to get a picture of what's going on with that. These are the things the corporations want. Now, the corporations can want whatever they do want. I have no problem with that. My problem is that the people of this country are being not only kept in the dark by the media, which these corporations also own, but we're having absolutely no input. This is simply a deal put together by the politicians and the corporations, and that's the reason I don't trust it. And I think all of us have got to be very careful about watching what is going on. The Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America, as they call it, the word security comes from 9/11. They're saying that because of 9/11, we are in big trouble. We have to be on the lookout we are in danger, and we have to be watching our borders and everything much more carefully. And that is a big part of why this entire agreement is happening. But you know, hundreds of millions of people around the world, and I heard just a few days ago that in a poll in the United States, 37% of Americans think that the U.S. government was either complicit in 9/11 or knew it was going to happen and allowed it to happen. We need a full investigation about that incident. Why should we believe? We know George Bush is a liar. I mean, just from what happened in Iraq, if nothing else. So why should we believe his story on 9/11, or the U.S. government story, or the U.S. and Canada corporate media story? Maybe they're right, but there are so many questions being asked by so many people who are as intelligent as the rest of us, who are not lunatics, who are serious people, and they're asking questions. And I think those questions have got to be answered before we change everything about our country because of a story that we're being told. It's almost as if when the Cold War ended, they had to find a new enemy. And they found one. It's Islam, and they're trying to create a war of civilizations, and it's terror to keep all of us scared. And now they're fighting a war on terror. Well, really, it's a war of terror that they're fighting, I think. So this is where we stand. The North American Union is moving ahead. It's very important that you at least know about this. Please Google North American Union, or Google Corporate North American Union, or Google just SPP, which is short for Security and Prosperity Partnership, and you'll find lots and lots of information about what's going on. Other than that, I don't know what to tell you to do, because you know, they always say write a letter to the editor. Well, that's not going to do any good. The corporations that are behind this basically own and control virtually all of the Canadian media. All of our daily newspapers, all of our television stations, all of our major radio stations are controlled by the corporations that are supporting the North American Union. In Canada, the corporate support group is called the Canadian Council of Chief Executives, an organization that most of us have never heard about because it is so powerful. Powerful enough to keep its name really out of the media because, as I said, they own the media. The Canadian Council of Chief Executives, the top 150 corporations in Canada working together in their own interest. And I have no problem with their working in their interest, but I do have a problem with them working against the interests of the rest of us. So what can we do? I think it's important to be aware and be a little bit angry that our democracy is being subverted by these people. I think that's all we can do right now. We have no power. We don't have any real democratic powers. So it's important to just be aware and become more aware. Let other people know about what's happening. And get a little bit angry that our democracy is being subverted like this. Thank you very much.